Alright, what is up everyone? Welcome back. I've been enjoying Rogue Company a ton and I've been really enjoying making these videos, so if you do end up learning something or you enjoy the video, make sure you drop a like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Alright, so let's just get right into it. When you hear that Rogue Company is a tactical shooter, games like Valorant and CSGO probably come to your mind. Games that are very slow and methodical and you take your time to, do things like utilize cover, you peek corners very slowly, and you coordinate team assaults as you go together. While this game does in fact have some of that, there's also a lot of leeway in the way that you can play the game. You can play the game in very different ways actually. And so, while team comp is important, for sure, it doesn't necessarily make or break that match for you. Maybe in a game like Valorant, if you have the wrong team comp, you can definitely lose for sure. But in this game, you can have a team of 4 aggro characters, and you can still crush house. Assuming you guys know what you're doing. You just have to know your role, and you have to know how to play it effectively. With that said, with this game, you don't have to play defensively. You can play offensively. You can be aggressive if you know what you're doing in this game. So, let's get right into it. How do we be aggressive in this game? There's a few factors that I'll say it comes down to. It comes down to movement, knowledge, knowing when to flank, and pushing. Knowing effectively when to push. In this game, I noticed a lot when people jump out of the plane in Strikeout, or even in demo, people often bum rush the point. You don't really see a lot of people that take the middle route, or the people that will take like the side route and go all the way around the spawn. People will just bum rush in, and that's fine. You need people to do that, especially if you have like an anvil or something, or a V, or a trench that can push up and slow the enemy down at the point. You definitely want that. But if you're someone like Lancer, or Ronin, or even like a Scorch or Chaac, you can run around the back, pick people off because you've got like a close range weapon, and you can take them out. The element of surprise can really help you take like 2 or even 3 people out of, no one really sees you coming. You can get them good, especially if your team is in the front and they're distracting them and they're, peeking and they're popping shots at each other. You can finish them off for your teammate and clean house, and you can start off the game on a very good note. You don't necessarily have to always flank from the back or the side. You can run through the middle and then cut over in the lane. You can run from you can run through the spawn, as I said. You can mix and match things up. If you keep flanking from the back or the third lane, the third farthest lane every single time, the enemy team is going to catch on and they'll probably wait for you and pick you off. So you want to keep the enemy on their toes. Sometimes you cut through the middle. Sometimes you go with your team, right? The 4 of you will push down the opening lane into the objective, or maybe sometimes you'll push down the third lane. Keep things mixed, and you'll keep the enemy on their toes, and you should be able to effectively flank them. But another key note about flanking is that you have to be very careful about your footsteps. In this game, footsteps are extremely loud. So with that, you're going to want to play a character like Lancer, who has quick and quiet. You can press your Q, and you can be very quiet. You'll make almost no sound, I believe, for that period of like 10 seconds that you have it activated. So you can sprint at them, and they won't know where you're coming unless they see you. You can also run the perk called Padded Steps, which will make it so that way when you walk, you don't make nearly as much noise or any noise at all. I think you might make a little bit of clacking, but if you're walking behind the team, they probably shouldn't be able to hear you with this perk. So if you run one of these 2, you should be able to get behind the enemy and pop them from behind if you're flanking, if you do it correctly. Now with that said, if you have a character that doesn't have either of these, what if I want to play Chaac? Chaac doesn't have either of these. So what do? You run around the back and then you can crouch, or you can just straight bum rush in because Chaac has the auto, he can stim and go in, or he has the auto revive. You can play it so that way you bum rush in and maybe you take out a guy, and if you get hit, you go around a corner, heal yourself, and you go back in the fight, or you go in stimmed and you try and take out as many people as you can as you rush around the flank, even if people hear you. You gotta be really careful about how you do this, but if you do it right, you can still, even without stealth, take people out from the flank, and that's the coolest part of this game. Another thing that I've noticed when playing this game, in the time that I've been playing this game, I noticed that players are very afraid to push engagements. And I get it, it's a tactical shooter, right? We want to play very smart, very defensively, we want to utilize our cover, we want to be very smart with how we're doing everything, right? Very thought out and methodical. Except, a lot of the times, if you pop a couple shots in someone and they're running away and you're at full health, you're going to want to actually push that. Especially if you have a teammate. If it's a 2v1, and you guys are popping shots at a guy and he's running away, there's no reason for you guys to not push them. you have the advantage. You have the numbers advantage, and if you, let's say one of you is hurt, you or the teammate, it doesn't matter. If one of you is hurt, it doesn't matter. You still push, because if they get down by that enemy, you can finish the enemy and pick them up, and you'll be good. There's so many times when me and a teammate are together, we're fighting someone, the enemy will run away. My teammate will just go behind cover, and I'll be the one to push. And sometimes that does get me killed, because for one reason or another, maybe the enemy has good cover, maybe the enemy is able to throw a grenade at me, maybe another teammate's able to come help them in time, and I wasn't able to push fast enough. If I had the teammate with me, we'd be able to push that and get back to cover just fine. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen more often than not. If you have the health advantage, you're good to push, assuming you know how to use the movement and, maybe dodge roll or jump shot effectively to catch them off guard even more. You can definitely take them off in a 1v1 if you push correctly. So many times in this game, I arguably push too much. I'm not gonna lie, and it will get me killed. But there's so many people I see that should push that just don't. I think it's more of a mental thing. They get it in their heads that they shouldn't push, they should be defensive. But in reality, you need a good mix of both, pushing and playing defensively to do well in this game. If you do too much of one, the balance will be offset, and you'll probably end up hurting your team too much if you do too much of one or the other. But a good amount of both will really, really set your team up very well. And I think if you can master knowing when to push and knowing how to push effectively, you will be excellent at being aggressive in this game. And with that, the key to pushing is also knowing how to move. So in this game, there's 4 ways you can utilize movement to help you win gunfights. The most obvious, if you've played any sort of shooter at all, is strafing, where when you move left and right while you're shooting to sort of throw the enemy off their aim. If you've played this game, you've probably noticed enemies doing that to you as well. If not, you go ahead and try it, because it's a really, really effective way. And because it's third person, you don't really have to worry about your aim getting thrown off as much as like a first person shooter. Sometimes if you're new to strafing and you try it out, it can throw off your aim a bit, but with the aim being always a crosshair, it's a lot easier to learn strafing in this game. Another method is the rolls, which are exclusive to this game. You can roll behind cover, you can roll out of cover, you can roll in and out of cover. If you're Lancer, you can roll and you can reload. Learning how to roll effectively can easily make or break a gunfight. It can save your life, or it can get you killed if you do it wrong. Rolling is very, very, very strong, and I highly urge you to learn how and when to use rolls effectively. An enemy that can roll effectively is probably the most terrifying thing that I can face as an aggressive player, because I know that I'm probably screwed if they can roll more effective than I can. But in addition to rolling, if you're trying to, push out and get someone that's maybe behind cover, you can either roll to get them, but if you roll, you have a delay between when you can shoot, or you can jump shot around the corner. Jump shotting allows you to shoot, but it does make your aim slightly off, but it allows you to shoot right away as you jump around the corner. Jump shotting can throw people off quite a bit. I've noticed that when I jump shot around corners, if I'm pushing someone, they're off guard, and I can easily finish them off, which is really, really nice. But again, you have to be careful because your aim will be off. And finally, the last method that I heard about, that I personally don't use, but I've heard about, is the spamming crouch method. If you've played a game like Call of Duty, maybe you've heard about drop shotting. This game does not have prone, so drop shotting does not exist. But if you spam crouch enough, you can toggle your hitbox and such that way. It makes it harder for the enemy to hit you, especially if they're going for headshots. If you're spamming crouch, you're going up and down really, really, really fast. This method is pretty cute if you're trying to dodge phantoms and stuff, dodge those headshots, or if you're peeking in and out of cover. It's really cool. I should try this sometime. It sounds really cool, but I'm more used to the other 3 methods. Each method has their own pros and cons, though. Keep that in mind, right? Jump shotting, you're going to be less accurate, but it gives you the most mobility when going around a corner, going around cover. The spamming crouch method, you're only in one position. You're literally in one position, so you kind of got to be really careful, because you're kind of a sitting duck, technically. If the enemy has good aim, you're screwed. With strafing, you're moving a lot, so it can affect your aim too. Got to be careful about that one. But strafing is probably the safest method of the 4, because it doesn't affect your aim all that much, and I'd say that it probably helps you dodge enemy shots the most. And then the rolling. The rolling is probably the biggest one. If you can master rolling, you will be a god in this game. I've seen some enemies that are excellent at knowing when to roll out, and popping people. Those people are just insane at this game. If you can master rolling, you will be a god at being aggressive in this game. And so, I believe with those 3 things, that's really the core to being aggressive at Ronin Company. To know when to move, to know where to move, to know how to move, and where to go, Sometimes you want to flank, sometimes you might not want to flank, sometimes you press up with your team and you'll want to charge in, maybe jump shot around a corner to pick someone off. Knowing when to do all these things effectively is the key to being aggressive in this game, and I believe that if you truly want to be aggressive, you can. If you don't want to be, and you want to be the support player, maybe you want to be the Saint, maybe you want to be the Anvil that pushes up for your team, that's perfectly fine. But if you want a different playstyle, go ahead and try this. Go try flanking with Lancer or Ronin and tell me how you like it, because it's a very, very unique experience that I tend to gravitate to in games. And in this game especially, I don't see a lot of people doing it. So I hope that with this, I'm able to show a lot of people how they can rush effectively in this game, and maybe it's a new playstyle that you guys will enjoy. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys learned from it. And if you did, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps a ton. And with that, I hope you guys have a great day. Peace.